In 1858, a crowd of curious Angelenos descended on the plaza in front of Our Lady Queen of Angels Church. They had come to see a controversial evangelist make good on his claim that if he were to be buried in a grave, he would, in 3 days' time, rise out of the tomb just like Jesus Christ. The evangelist was Scottish-born William Monet, who some believed was a prophet, while others saw him as a foolish, if not dangerous, con man. For years he had published articles condemning the Catholic Church, and once while living in Mexico he argued his views to a group of Franciscan friars so fervently that when it was done he claimed that the defeated Padres were driven into exile, insanity, and even suicide. So when he began boasting to have the power to resurrect himself, it was too much for his enemies to resist. They challenged Monet to prove his assertions, and since he was someone who didn't shrink when confronted by his detractors, he agreed to be buried alive. It's hard to know what was going through his mind that day in Los Angeles Plaza as he stood before his enemies, whose stares must have felt as cold and unforgiving as the freshly dug grave he was soon to occupy. But what happened next is well documented. Monet got into the narrow coffin and instructed it to be nailed shut. The gathered witnesses were silent as the pine box was then lowered into the earth and the gravediggers began to fill in the hole. This is just one of the life stories out of the thousands who are buried in San Gabriel Cemetery. Spread over 14 tranquil acres, it sits in the neighboring cities of San Gabriel and San Marino. The cemetery was founded in 1872, and to step through its iron gates is to step back in time. So come walk with me and let's see who we'll find. The land where the cemetery sits was once part of the sprawling rancho owned by Benjamin Davis Wilson, or Don Benito as he preferred to be called. He was born in Wilson County, Tennessee, and came to California in 1841 via Texas and New Mexico. He originally purchased land in what is now the town of Rubidoux in Riverside County. In 1845, he was hired to capture or kill a group of horse thieves who were marauding many of the small pueblos along the Santa Ana River in the San Bernardino Valley. During this period, he became acquainted with Lorenzo Trujillo of the Pueblo Agua Mansa. In 1844, he married Ramona Yorba, the daughter of Bernardo Yorba. You can learn more about Trujillo and Yorba by clicking the links in the description below. By the end of the 1840s, Wilson disposed of his land in Riverside and moved to San Gabriel. There he established his own ranch called Lake Vineyard. Sadly, his wife Ramona died in 1849, but Don Benito was soon remarried to Margaret Hereford. In 1850, he entered politics and was elected to the Los Angeles Common Council, the predecessor of the modern City Council. He served as county supervisor and mayor. He was also elected to 3 terms as California State Senator. In 1864, Wilson became the first white man to reach one of the highest peaks of the San Gabriel Mountains. Mount Wilson, as it is now known, was named in his honor. After a life of many achievements, Don Benito passed away on March 11, 1878, at the age of 66. He was laid to rest here in his family plot in San Gabriel Cemetery that is overlooked by the mountain that bears his name. Benjamin Wilson and his wife Margaret had only one child, a daughter named Ruth. In 1884, Ruth married a prosperous 28-year-old attorney who came to San Gabriel from West Virginia. The attorney was George Smith Patton, the son of a Confederate officer who was killed in action in Virginia in 1864. Patton graduated from the Virginia Military Institute at the age of 21 with a degree in the law. But instead of taking a career in the military, he moved to Los Angeles where he quickly made a name for himself in business and political circles. That was where he became acquainted with Ruth Wilson. Their first child was born in 1885, and he was named after his father and grandfather. George S. Patton Jr. had a charmed childhood with his parents and sister Anne on the Lake Vineyard estate. As a young man, George thrilled in tales of ancient warriors. and like his father and paternal grandfather, he attended VMI and then West Point. Being a fine horseman, he went into the Army as a cavalry officer in time to see the arrival of mechanized weaponry. Patton's colorful and sometimes controversial exploits as commander of the Third Army during World War II are well documented. Believing he was the reincarnation of the likes of Hannibal and Napoleon, the general that his men referred to as Old Blood and Guts had an almost supernatural ability to inspire the men under his command to win great victories. After the victory in Europe, Los Angeles welcomed its native son with a triumph fit for a Caesar. That evening he made these remarks at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
You must remember this, that from Brest to various towns in southern Germany and Austria, whose names I can't pronounce, but whose places I have removed, the trail of the Third Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command and the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses. 40,000 dead Americans.
General Patton died in Germany on December 21, 1945, when the car he was riding in collided with a truck. He is buried in the Luxembourg American Cemetery among the fallen soldiers he commanded. But a cenotaph was placed in San Gabriel Cemetery beside the markers of his father, mother, and sister. And a life-size bronze statue of the general was placed just outside the cemetery walls to honor the local boy who played an enormous role in securing the freedom of millions. Like all old cemeteries, San Gabriel has its share of those who defended their country in battle. Like Major Henry Slauson of the 15th Regiment of New York Engineers, who commanded a company of men during the bloody Battle of Fredericksburg. One conspicuous grave is that of Louis Anderson, who was a corporal in the Union Army. He saw action at Shiloh and Chickamauga and served under General Sherman during the march to Atlanta. Here you will find men who fought on both sides of the war between the states, like Joseph Huddleston of Company C of the 13th Missouri Cavalry, who was present at Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and Jenkins Ferry, as well as taking part in many raids that took place throughout the state of Missouri. And William Henry Stevens, who fought in Company G of the 6th Regiment Tennessee Infantry. His company was known as the Jackson Greys. Emmett Mundy would serve his country during World War I, where he trained in the brand new field of military aeronautics. 18-year-old Basil Henry Hudson answered his country's call right after Pearl Harbor. Joining the Navy, he was assigned to the brand new destroyer USS Laffey. The Laffey and its crew served bravely during the costly but critical Battle of Guadalcanal. In the early morning hours of November 13, 1942, the heavily damaged destroyer exploded and sank, taking with her 59 crew members, including Hudson. This stone was placed here in remembrance of him and his shipmates who sacrificed everything. Then there is Hattie Borden Weld, who painstakingly compiled the biographies of the Borden family in America going back to the 1600s. But the one everyone wants to talk about is Cousin Lizzie, who is said to have taken an axe one day and At San Gabriel Cemetery, you will also find Laura Scudder, the entrepreneur who perfected the way potato chips are packaged to ensure they don't lose their satisfying crunch. And here is Henry Hamilton, publisher and editor of The Star, Los Angeles' first newspaper. During the Civil War, he was openly pro-South and criticized President Lincoln for his prosecution of the war. He believed that California should be divided into two states, one free, the other slave. Hamilton's views were so outspoken that in 1864 he was arrested by federal troops and held prisoner until he pledged his loyalty to the Union. After the Civil War, he went back to publishing the paper that had long been a megaphone for eccentrics like himself and William Monet. Oh, you're probably wondering what became of the good Reverend William Monet. When we left him, he was being buried alive. I've kept you waiting long enough, so let's pick up where we left off, shall we? After the first few shovelfuls of earth hit the top of the coffin, the gravediggers suddenly stopped. Muffled cries, followed by frantic pounding noises, could be heard coming from the ground. The spectators backed away as the lid of the coffin flew open, and Monet scrambled out of the grave, gasping for air and covered in dirt and perspiration. Humiliated, he pushed through the amused crowd. The famous raconteur was struck speechless as he stormed off. Afterwards, Monet continued to publish his theological and scientific musings, but his audience and influence had declined sharply. He retired to San Gabriel and briefly gained some positive press after saving the life of young Danny Mulock, who had been gored by a wild boar. The Mulock family was so grateful that when Monet died sometime in 1881, no one knows the exact year, the family gave him a final resting place in their plot at San Gabriel Cemetery. Although one can't help but wonder if he's really down there, or if by some miracle he was able to... Nah. The great ranchos and farms that once filled the San Gabriel Valley have all disappeared as the suburbs emerged in their place. Where orange groves and vineyards once flourished are now roads and buildings. Birdsong has been overtaken by the rushing wail of jet airplanes, and the cough of distant tractors have been succeeded by a chorus of lawnmowers. It's easy to feel melancholy over such change, but with progress comes sacrifice. But if you listen hard enough, you might pick up on a familiar undercurrent running through the immutable clamor of our daily lives. It is like the voice of an old friend, calling us to go to hidden gems like San Gabriel Cemetery, for they are fulcrums upon which balances the past and the future. The lives and the stories that are contained here, whether sad or amusing, are our stories. These are our lives, and all that matters, all that survives, are not the daily convulsions, but rather the choices we make and the way we treat others. Thank you for watching, and please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more grave explorations.